All right, what's up, everybody? We've got Veckel and Antonio Fletcher here, and we're going to be responding to some remarks made by Dragnoct. But this video is not specifically trying to just hit on what Dragnoct said. It's attempting to try to respond to what a lot of evolutionists and atheists have been saying in this little butthurt clan on in their little circles. Um, and it's this pompous, arrogant-like attitude to where they want to try to condescend and be just completely disrespectful and obnoxious towards our side. Um, to get a better idea of what it is that I'm talking about, I'm going to screen share Dragnoc's recent video that he had just put up. So tell me if you guys can see this.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Alright, so I was gonna make a video, and make a fucking video. I've been making videos, and then I haven't been uploading it because people have been making statuses and short little snippets and pretty much saying the same shit I was gonna say. But on the point of why myself, Sam, Fiona, Steve, Isaiah, Jade, CRISPR, Rational Mind, a lot of us have decided not to go into these rooms hosted by Nephi, hosted by Arcane, hosted by True, hosted by a lot of these, or a lot of these fucking younger creationist nutters that don't know science, is because quite a few of them have the habit of muting and booting people, lowering people's volumes, and a lot of bitch shit, a lot of bitch-made shit that pretty much constitutes censorship. And why would I waste my time going and educating people who honestly didn't pass fucking high school science class, high school biology, to have that shit done to me when I've actually passed the shit? I actually know the content, And the same thing with Fiona. Like, she's actually taught these fucking classes. Same thing with Hogtie. Same thing with, a lot of us who have actually gone to fucking school. Like, we've actually been in positions where we can teach people who aren't fucking stupid.
He's been in the position because he took a course of chemistry in college. But that's not the point here. The point is that he tries to run his mouth about muting and turning down volumes, but he knows full well that most of our discussions, myself and Dragnoct, have been completely respectful up until the point to where we were talking on Xbox's channel, and I was in a room full of atheists that were all interrupting me and being obnoxious and rude to me. Now, I want everybody to go and watch this video right over here between myself and Dragnoct. It's only about 37, 40 minutes long, but it was a very respectful discussion. One thing that you start noticing towards the end, when I start getting a little bit more blunt with him, is that I start confronting the fact that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and I explain why he's wrong and a lot of the things that he's saying. Totally respectful. The reason why Dragnoct avoids coming into rooms with me now is because Dragnoct has realized all the trash talk that he's been making on his Hangout, or in other Hangouts as well. You can run your mouth and you can act like you know what you're talking about when you're distant from one of us and criticize us and condescend to one of us. But it's different when you're actually coming into a room with us and putting those criticisms on the table, because more often than not, you're going to be shown to be flat out wrong about what you're talking about. Now, you can go and backtrack a lot of my discussions, like with Dave Vass or with Hogtie. Most of my discussions have been very, very respectful. Usually the only time a discussion becomes disrespectful is actually when we're in a room with multiple different atheists being very obnoxious, interrupting, and being disrespectful. I'll give you an example of that. You see my discussion that I had with John Sabator. I thought I was respectful for the most part. He got frustrated with me because I wanted to stop with the presentations and actually get into the meat of some topics. But even still, I think it was more so respectful. Now, we got onto my case for that, for wanting to cross-examine him. But if you go and you watch what happened on Steve's channel when he was speaking with Tommy Hall, they were all interrupting Tommy Hall, and they were all being disrespectful. Now, if anybody denies this, I can take a clip from that and show it. It's the same exact thing that happened with Drag over on FBox channel. Dragnoct had actually he was respectful with me, but when he was on Xbox's channel, he became very obnoxious and interruptive. They were all being very interruptive because this is how atheists act in their hangouts. So likewise, when they come inside of our rooms and they're trying to be interruptive or they're trying to be obnoxious like they are in other hangouts or condescending to us or calling names, we have to mute and we have to turn down their volumes to get them on point and to get them to start actually talking about some things of substance. Before I continue and show some material to justify what I'm saying, and I hope that everybody goes and watches this video right here that I had with Dragnoct. I will take it and put it in the link in the description, and I'll put it in the side chat so you can all check it out, so that you can go look at it. But before I show more material, I want to know what you guys think on this, Antonio and Veckel.
Yeah, if I may, I would just like to suggest to Dragnet, since he made this excuse about no longer coming into your hangouts, why don't he just set up why don't you just have it set up so that you have some sort of moderator? Maybe it could be in a moderated environment where you have a neutral party that is willing to step in and say, hey, let this person finish their statements. Or whatever. I mean, because if it's really just about censorship, that these people don't want to come into the hangouts, then I'm sure they would work very, very hard to getting some sort of moderator, getting some sort of mediation or something between the two sides so that both sides can be heard. But based off of I don't know, man. Dragna he's a weird individual, man. Just like you said before, sometimes he kind of flip-flops with his personality. Like when it's just the two of you, he's okay, he's all civil and everything. But then when he's with his atheist comrades, all of a sudden we see the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of Dragna here. I mean, in his video, he just sounds very arrogant and narcissistic. And this is not the first time I've heard him speak like this. So I'm just really concerned and interested in seeing him get into another civil conversation with you as he did in the past, and as well as the others. So if these people are seriously interested in having a discussion with somebody who knows this stuff as much as they do, then why don't they set up a place where they have a moderator making sure that nobody's cutting each other off or censoring each other or anything like that. But for me to hear people, the atheists, say that they don't want to be, they don't want to participate in coming into your hangouts because of censorship, to me that just sounds, I don't know, it just sounds like a cop-out. And the reason why that is because way too often we hear these evolutionists hear the things that you say true, and they just immediately resort to saying, "Oh, he's wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong." It's like nothing a creationist says is right, and that's all I hear out of their mouths is just biasness. That's bias. That's all I hear out of them. So I want to hear a civil discussion between the two sides with a neutral party in the middle.
Right, this same arrogant, pompous attitude that's being presented by Dragnoct and many of the other individuals within his circles has been directed to Jeffrey Tompkins, the PhD in genetics, with over 50
years. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they do that. They apply that to everybody that they disagree with. We're educated. We know about what we're talking about. We know more than you. They do that. And with their chest puffed out when they're distant from us, because they need to feel better about their views that they're taking. I think it's got something to do with that. But one thing that you notice, you can try to get onto me for being self-taught. A lot of the things that I'm talking about is that more often than not, you realize that these people, they're not informed about a lot of the information, or they're not talented enough to use that information in a beneficial way to make some actual points. So, I mean, that's a remark. It's been repeated like a mantra here online. We can't really take it seriously anymore, and I think there's obvious good reasons for that. But Antonio, do you have anything to say based on what's been said?
Oh, absolutely. My opinion on the issue is this. I don't mind that people don't want to come into rooms. If they don't feel confident enough to talk about the issues, that's okay. You don't have to come into the rooms. Just like, I don't go to their circles and go into their rooms, because if I don't feel confident enough to talk about the subject matter, I'm not going to come into their rooms. But what I do have a problem with is when you show up on people's rooms and then you talk about your mess in the text chat, and then you want to come into the room after you're talking a bunch of junk. That's what I have a huge issue with. You got all these people thugging and jiving in text comments all day, but they're not man or woman enough to come into the room and talk like adults. So if you aren't confident in talking about the subject matter, then be honest and say so. And don't troll people in their rooms. But if you're going to show up in their rooms and talk a bunch of mess, then come in the room and back it up. It's just that simple.
Exactly. And you know what? Drag knows this. I've never tried to sharpshoot him, as he says, or I've never been obnoxious with him. But, and I could have in the past. And there's been a lot of examples to where Drag has not known things that I've been talking about, like Le Chatelier's principle, or, reaching the equilibrium state, or, the um, uh, the cytochrome oxidase proteins that protrude along the mitochondrial matrix, or just a whole bunch of other things that have been brought up that he hasn't heard of before, and he didn't know what to say. I didn't press it or go in that direction, because my goal here is not to be arrogant or pompous or obnoxious. My goal here is to try to have a discussion. And you see, whenever you guys are respectful and calm, and we're actually, where we can have a dialogue, you can see, look at the track record of my discussions, so where everything is cool. We can just talk with each other and have a discussion. But what Dragnoct has been doing, I think, and he realizes it, is that he's been shooting off his mouth a lot in other hangouts, acting as if he knows more than he does, because he took a course in chemistry in college, or he's attempting to finish college. Now I don't know what he's trying to go, what degree he's trying to get, but he finished a course in chemistry. So he's been running his mouth and getting a little bit carried away with that, and I think he realizes that he doesn't know as much as he's been puffing out his chest or trying to act like he does. So if he were to come into a room, I think that he's intimidated of being exposed. And after the last discussion that I had with him, it was respectful, and he realizes it was respectful. So he can't. He doesn't know of a way to where he can get out of, the fact that he doesn't know as much as he's been trying to present himself as knowing. He doesn't want to make himself look bad when he goes live. And it's the same thing, for example, with Artist. For those that do not know who Artist is, let me pull up this discussion that I had with him. I'm going to put this in the description below. Artist was approaching the discussions with me the exact same way. Before I actually had my first discussion with him, he was equating himself to Sam and Fiona, and he actually was referring to himself as being a scientist. Now, I want you guys to see this discussion. I'm going to put it in the link below. Artist has a habit of citation bluffing. He usually doesn't know what he's talking about. He'll just Google as many articles as he can possibly Google that might have whatever the topic has to do with in the title, but usually doesn't end up talking about anything that he's talking about. Here's the right here. I want you to check this out. All right, guys. So I want you guys to check out this discussion that's in the comment section. Wait 1 second, guys. All right, this is the discussion I had with Artist. It's also in the description as well. I want you to check it out because I think it's worth watching. Most of the time while we're speaking, he does not even know what to say, and I was respectful to him. I was calm with him. I approached the discussion with him with a little bit more, in technical details, because I was. He told me actually beforehand that he was a scientist and he was educated in these things. So I was assuming he knew about these topics. But as you watch the discussion, I hope that everybody clicks on that second link that I put in the description below. It becomes abundantly clear that he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm going to screen share another video. It's what happens. This video actually is the after hangouts that we had last night. And who's going to be in this video is going to be Artist. So these are my discussion that I had yesterday, and this video right now that I'm about to show you are the videos that Dragnoct was just recently responding to. So I want you guys to pay attention to this. Alright, I don't have it up here. Give me 1 second, guys. Alright, I got it up. From you guys are typing, so it's moving. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm reading a claim made by Artist. Artist said that what Nephilim Free was saying about chaperones was incorrect. That they have everything known and figured out about chaperones. And then afterwards, I think he was digressing and trying to make some sort of different points, but this was the original points that he was trying to make. And he gave us a segment from the article that supposedly confirmed what he was talking about. And I'm reading that segment right now, so this is what you're seeing. Nascent chain and shown as gray and orange mesh. The ribosomal surface is depicted in gray. The asterisk mark the tunnel exit site. The filtered crystal structure of the TF is shown in red. Please note that the P-place domain of the TF had to be rotated by 24 towards the C-terminal arms in the order to fit the M-density model of the flexibility. And you guys keep typing. I'm awake.
Stop typing.
All right, C-terminal. C-terminal.
Stop typing and posting stuff, y'all.
So it says, okay, the model of the flexibility and conformational rearrangements within TF comparisons of different structures of free and substrate bounds. TF suggested substantial interdomain flexon of the TF domain 10A in the case of the T maritima. TF rational freedom of the P-place domain on the overall flexible C-terminal domain with hinge bending motions of the C-terminal core of the C-terminal arms. In case of the T martima, TF additional flexibility and undergoes conformational rearrangements leading to the molecular expansion upon ribosome binding and can swing around the ribosomal attachment sites by about third figure. So what is your point, man?
Hey, True, let me address that. It seems all he's doing is talking about domain structures, functions, and variables. That doesn't seem to have anything to do with evolution.
Exactly. What he's trying to do. Talking about chaperones. You guys mentioned it.
Let me ask you, so I don't think you get what this is talking about.
These chaperones actually rotate. the protein in order so that it can match the exact location that it needs to bind to in order for it to do its job. At first they said, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the right orientation. We got to rotate it. Now click, bind, now fold. There we go, kick it out.
Chemistry couldn't play any part of this whatsoever.
That's right.
But hold on a second. Does it know what it's talking about? Do you know what it's talking about? When it's referring to a ribosome, when it's referring to the ribosome binding factor, what is it talking about?
What does this?
It says at the top of that section that you gave me, it's referring to ribosomal binding factor. What is that talking about?
It's where they bind together. You are aware of this.
Answer the question, please. What is a ribosomal binding factor? What is it?
It's a binding site.
No, it's a protein that associates. It's a protein that associates with ribosomal units.
You're a better verse than me in this MMA, and even I can see that's not talking about evolution. Even I can see that.
I'm not talking about
MM artists. Just really quick, I'll shut up after I say this. You need to be a little bit more humble, man, because you've had a bad habit of coming into rooms. Let me say this. I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but you need to hear this because no one's going to say this to you. You've come into my rooms like 6 or 7 times, and every single time you come into a room, you citation bluff, and you don't know what those things are even talking about. Okay? So you need to look at nothing that you showed right over here in this section, literally nothing at all, had anything at all to do with your criticism that you directed to Neff. Not one thing.
It actually does. But because you're uneducated on this topic, you can't.
I just crap, man.
No, it does.
Stop with
You're the jargon coming in.
Well, let's just ask MMR.
Yeah, I want him to point out, man, he comes in here with this big, bad, bold attitude of his. Oh, good.
Yeah, for everybody who's listening, to give you, and I hope everybody goes and watches that Hangouts. It was the last Hangouts that Nephilim Free did. It's the after Hangouts to my Hangouts last night. Because when you watch that discussion, you begin to realize why I pointed that out to MM Artist. He came in that room very obnoxious, very arrogant, disruptive. Just came in, you guys are, ignorance, you don't understand anything, you're uneducated, and he started putting a bunch of links there with a side chat, and just basically running his mouth in the comment section on the side as well. But when he gave us the link, it for one didn't back up or prove anything that he was talking about, and he didn't even know what it was talking about anyways to begin with. But during this chat, he was actually being interruptive and he was starting to become rude. That was the reason why he had to have his volume decrease and he had to be muted. He came in for the specific reason to be, and purpose to just come in and to be disruptive and obnoxious and arrogant. And from the very beginning, he didn't even know what the articles that he was referencing were actually talking about. You can't have a productive discussion with somebody who wants to act like this, and this behavior is the way that they all act on Steve's Hangouts or in other Hangouts as well. This is the reason why they are intimidated of coming into a room to where we're in control, or because we will not let them continue to act like that. They will be forced to stay on topic and to respond to the points that we're making. So what do you guys have to say based on what I've said thus far?
Hold on, I lost audio. For some reason, my audio went down way down towards the end of what you were saying. And then it finally came up when you said, what did I think about what you said? Let me fix this. Hold on.
Yeah, what I'm saying basically is that they are muted and their volume is decreased for a specific reason. And that is because they get off topic. They come in our rooms only to be disruptive and to tell us we're idiots and we don't know what we're talking about, while never being able to point out where it is that we're wrong and we don't know what we're talking about. We ask them questions to justify their claims or statements that they make, and they can't seem to do it. And you guys can't get mad at us for trying to keep you guys under control. And if you act respectful and calm, then that's not what's going to happen to you. And you can look at my discussions that I've had over this last just year or so, and you can see that a lot of my discussions have been very respectful and very calm. Look at my discussion with Dave S. Hogtie. Look at my discussion with Dragnock. I just gave you that link right over here below. Or the first discussion that I had with Artist when he was in the room with me by himself. But you see that if he comes into the room and he's not pompous and obnoxious and arrogant, there's no substance that he can really offer with his criticism that he's directing. He's silent. Because if he can't be obnoxious or arrogant, if he can't condescend to people and say, I've got a degree in whatever, or I'm educated in this field or whatever, he doesn't really know what to say because he can't refute what's being said. He needs those obnoxious responses as a sort of filler response because he's got nothing really to offer.
Well, it's easy to see that on the surface level, especially if you watching it already with a biased mind, that there was some censorship being done with Artist. But again, as we stated in the video and also just now, it's very evident that the guy has an agenda. I mean, one example is, as I mentioned this privately in the Hangout, and I'll mention it publicly. I posted a link to an article regarding persecuted brothers and sisters in Christ overseas. Actually, no, it was in India, specifically in India, where their churches were being burned down. This recently happened last month. So I put out a little article asking all the Christians to keep them in prayer. And the first person to respond was Artist, saying that prayer doesn't work. There's specific statistics and surveys that have been taken to show that prayer doesn't work. And here he is, man, just trying to destroy people's faith, destroy their, just trying to destroy and kill the morale of the Christian community here. So then I asked him about evidence for this issue on the prayer not working. He sends me a link to something that he probably hasn't even thoroughly looked at, like he does most of the things that he claims that he cites. And the question, when I looked at the article, it still didn't answer the one simple question, and it's a very simple question. In order for you to know that prayer doesn't work, you have to have omniscient knowledge. Okay, what does that mean? That means that you have to know about every single prayer of every single individual that ever lived. How in the world can you get statistics on that? Because you don't know what every single prayer of every single person that ever lived and that is living today, if their prayers were answered. And how would you know that? But he's going by this naturalistic, well, if I can't touch it, if I can't experience it myself, therefore it must not be real. Well, that's a very, very subjective position. And this is why, and I've seen Artist do this quite a few times, quite a few hangouts, where he's presented some link to some article or some document that he himself is not even able to reiterate. He just sees a title. He probably does a search on YouTube. On Google. He sees it says how to beat true empiricism's argument. Google it, and then he finds something that seemed to match what he wants to present to the argument. Doesn't even really study the material. He just sees like some key words, and they say, aha, this will work, and then he forwards it to us as if this is some sort of refutation, legitimate refutation against the argument.
Yeah, it's not even only Artist, though. It's a lot of them in their circles. I mean, Fiona and Jade and so many other people, they've been giving me so many different links. And a lot of those links, they don't deal with the issue. They're already dealing with something that I've already talked about malfunction telomeres. They're not dealing with any of the points. They think that I'm supposed to be impressed because of all these links that they've provided that only have keywords, the keywords of the topic in the title, or mention it arbitrarily somewhere inside of some paragraph, and I don't think they realize this, but if you're giving me a link about something and you're saying that this is evidence, I'm gonna read through it. So I don't know why they think that. You see, I think what it is that they really do start to believe after being in their circles for a while that we're all idiots and that we don't read anything. And when we're reading it, they're not expecting us to search through it. Like Artist, I mean, go back to him. He's giving us all these links, and nothing that he's giving us is actually confirming anything that he's saying. Why would he do that? Why would he do that in live hangouts to where he knows that we're going to actually read through it right there on spot? And I think he made himself look really bad right there, because I asked him, okay, if you're telling me that it says what you're saying, then the copy and paste that section to where it's proving what you're talking about here in the side chats, or screen shares so that we can all see it. And he didn't give us anything that confirmed what he was saying. He found any random section, and then he just copied and pasted, and it was just way off topic. Didn't have anything to do with his criticism at all.
Well, true. You know me. I'm not ashamed to admit, and I've admitted this many times in public, that when it comes to the arena of science, I'm probably the last person you want to talk to, because I just simply don't have the same passion that other believers or atheists do have regarding this topic. I like listening to people talk about it because I learn a lot, but I just don't have the passion to research it. However, it does still kill me when I hear people like Artist, for example. Because you heard one of the last things he said before he left the hangout, that you are not educated enough. I mean, I remember the term scumbag he used in reference to creationists. I mean, where did the name calling come from all of a sudden? But this is the type of attitude that I've seen unfortunately, with a lot of evolutionists and atheists. And Kent Hovind actually says this quite a bit in some of his videos, where he says, saying that you're not intelligent enough to understand evolution, that's just simply not an argument. But unfortunately, he himself has experienced that many times. Whenever the evolutionist is unable to provide an answer, and he's refuting each one of their arguments, it usually 9 times out of 10 results to some sort of insult, where they say something along the lines of, well, evolution is a very complex thing, and you're just not intelligent enough to understand how it works. But wait, here you are talking to someone who's heard all the arguments, and he knows how to refute it, but yet they're still stupid. Okay, I don't know. So I don't know. I just don't find it very fair on their end. They can disagree, fine, but I don't know. It just seems like some sort of cognitive dissonance, man, when you resort to making those type of attacks.
Yeah, beyond the fact that Artist is flat out racist, I believe, in my opinion, he really isn't that talented when he's dealing with other people in these discussions. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm a super amateur layman on the subject. Like Vecco, I've admitted that many times, but even when he was citing his source last night, even I was able to read it myself and tear it apart and see that it wasn't saying what he was claiming. I mean, it was just a flat embarrassment on his part with him claiming to be a scientist. It wasn't saying what he was saying. And
he's a scientist? He claims he's a scientist?
Or claim he studied science or is a scientist. I don't know, one of the two.
Yeah, he told me at first that he was. Yeah, he told me at first a few months back, before that first discussion that I had with him, which led me to have that discussion with him, that he was a scientist and that he was basically equating himself to Fiona and Sam. Sam's got a master's in biology and Fiona's got whatever degree she's got. So he was putting himself on their level. So I was assuming, okay, he knows about this stuff, so that's why the reason when I was talking with him, I was attempting to try to bring the topic to a little bit more of a complex level. But when you watch and you listen to what he said, how he responds, he doesn't really know what to say. He's silent almost the entire time that I'm talking with him. So I mean, I'm just saying, you know what, they need to be a little bit more humble. And for the people that are wondering, okay,
I was going to say.
they're making excuses here. Yeah, what'd you say, Beckel?
I was just going to say the same thing. Humility is key. If you don't know something, just hey, you know what? Let me get back to you. But I don't know what if people, rather than just admitting that they don't know about a certain thing or that they're wrong about a certain thing, they want to keep arguing and maybe out of desperation run to Fiona or some Google website, and I don't know.
Well, exactly. I mean, you guys know. I mean, and everybody who's listening to me, you know that if I don't know about something, I'll tell you I don't know about it. If I'm wrong about something, I'll acknowledge and say, oh, you know what, I made a mistake right there. Or I'll wait to go live for the Christians that I've talked to privately. I'll tell them, you know what, I don't really know enough about this to talk about it live, so I'm not going to talk about that yet. Or I might have some sort of guest or somebody come in to actually talk about whatever topic. So I try to let people know that, you know what, I'm not an expert on these things, but I'm self-taught in a lot of these things. I try to be humble about it. But with MMRs and a lot of these other people, it's like they have to have this high and mighty, position to where they're looking down on Christians, because the mantra here on YouTube is that anybody who holds these views is an idiot and a moron and uneducated. And that's the reason why they become so defensive when they're talking to somebody who can start to respond to them, because they're not used to actually exercising the supposed information that they have. And when they come into a room where they have to actually test the knowledge that they think that they have, they get intimidated.
But MMRs has an overly inflated opinion about himself. I mean, the dude is just flat out plain and simple. The dude's not that talented at all, and it's really, really easy to see that in his demeanor. He's very, very arrogant. He likes to talk down on people. He likes to talk over people, and he's just not privy to a lot of the stuff he say when he gets in these discussions. And you know what? If you don't like what we're saying, well, that's too bloody bad, mate.
Yeah, I mean, again, this slightly changing going off of a tangent here. I mean, again, I have to ask, in an atheist worldview, why is being wrong about science wrong anyway? I mean, as long as we're doing everything right, we're not causing any harm to anybody. Why is it wrong to believe, let's say, in a flat Earth? Why is it wrong to believe that God created everything? Why are these things wrong? How are they in and of themselves harmful to society? But I don't get that impression. I don't get the impression from some of these people that they actually care about science being taught correctly. It seems to be more of whose Johnson is bigger than the other one. That's what it seems like.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I think that's been perfectly displayed in some of Steve's Hangouts, because when you listen to some of the mistakes that they make, Fiona, for example, she's an educated woman, and you can see it in her face. Like, she'll sit back and she'll stare at them, like she knows that they're screwing up in what they're saying, but she won't correct them. So I know that Fiona knows when they're wrong about something, but she won't correct them. None of them are really concerned about the truth or the science or the information. They're not concerned with any of that. They're concerned with their image here online, and some of them who are actually interested in their views, making sure that our views or the alternative views don't appear to be correct. That's what they're concerned with.
Well, true. Let me ask you something. I think it was last night, or I think it was last night or the night before, or maybe really, really early this morning. Steve said that you were wrong about the stuff. He's saying something about you quoting Tompkins all the time, and he's saying that Tompkins is wrong. And I said to him, bro, that's way too easy coming from you, because you already have a bias. So you have to excuse me if I just kind of don't really take seriously your criticism of Tompkins, because first of all, I don't know the stuff myself, so I can't compare it. And second of all, you're a non-believer. You just seem to disagree with anything that the true empiricism or everybody else is saying, because it goes against your worldview. So you excuse me if I just don't simply take your. I mean, then he started spouting off all these scientific terms, reasons why Tompkins was wrong. So I want to know from you, what arguments have you heard against Tompkins himself, and have you ever seen any sort of debates, and what are your reactions to these objections to Tompkins?
Well, to be honest, I haven't heard any good, and I know that they're going to say, oh, well, of course he's going to say this because he supports Tompkins, but I haven't heard or seen any good responses from people. The responses that I've seen, like from Ken Miller, or read from Ken Miller, and from, you know, other people like Ken Miller, they're just like, they're ridiculous. For example, I was on a site talking about bioinformatics, and towards the end of the sites, they were actually talking about Tompkins. They were saying, well, he's an idiot, that he's a moron, the word that they use, and they don't take, no scientist takes him seriously, and all that other nonsense. It's not a response, and it's not a refutation. And throughout the article, it was actually saying the same thing that Tompkins was talking about, that, yeah, these telomere fusions, they can happen in tumorous cells, but obviously a tumorous cancerous cell is not healthy for a living organism, neither is it congruent to us who have this supposed fusion site. It's not a fusion site, because we can actually survive. This is actually something that's so yeah, all I'm saying is that, yeah, there's been responses, but the responses are pretty much what we get from this butthurt clan over here from Dragnock and Sam and these other guys in their circles. So we're idiots, we don't know anything, we're stupid. It's not any technical detailed refutation. And when Ken Miller attempts to do that, Ken Miller is basically, in some ways, siding with what Tompkins is saying, or he's not dealing with what Tompkins is saying in the context of what he's talking about. So of course there's no good refutations of what Tompkins has said. This is the reason why he's got, I think, so much credibility, because there are no good refutations, just, you know, obnoxious responses.
You know, the key to wisdom is always realizing that you have more and more to learn, and that you are open to learning more from other people. Just be humble and know your limits, and it's okay for you to admit to your limits and to go back and study some more, and then broaden your views. So just don't get into this arrogant, just narcissistic attitude. Understand where your limits are, study more, and then broaden your horizons.
Exactly, well said. You know what?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, you had John McDropout in a discussion with us. It was just one of him. Before MMM Artist came in, it was just him, and he was the only, I think, non-believer in the room until then that guy Oscar came in, right? And for the most part, the conversation was pretty civil.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was actually a very good discussion that we had with John.
I mean, now I will admit that you know, I like Neff a lot, man. I like listening to him, man. But sometimes he goes on these incredibly elongated sermonettes, and it just seems like he's going from one point to the next, and he doesn't give the person a chance to respond to every one of his points. I know I hate when it's done to me, so I would never do that, or try my best to not do that with other people. And I think this is something that Neff is infamous for. One of the reasons why people don't like talking to Neff is because he goes on these incredibly long diatribes that need to be they need to be cut down a little bit. He needs to work on that, and that's why I think for Neff, he probably should work better in a moderated environment rather than a one-on-one, unless you can handle that kind of stuff. But other than that, I want to give John McDropout, who is an atheist and an evolutionist, kudos for his patience, because he was very, very civil in the discussion. Nobody censored him. Nobody talked over him. Well, maybe once and twice, but it wasn't nearly as bad as when MM Artist got in there. I would say he kind of deserved it and had it coming because of his attitude.
Right. I want to say this, that's expected in any hangouts, that there's going to be a little bit over talking, especially when the room is mainly one group, or if there's, like, you got 9 or 10 people in a room, of course, there's going to be some over talking because everybody wants to express their opinion or views. But I think that everybody understands, like when they're in a Christian hangout, that okay, calm down after a little bit once you start realizing that you're interrupting this individual. He's the only person here, so we should let him talk and express his opinions or his views. That doesn't really happen, I don't think, as far as what I've been seeing in a lot of these evolutionist circles. Most of the time, whenever I'm seeing a Steve hangouts or JD hangouts, especially JD Kane's hangouts or Fiona's hangouts, there's a lot of disrespect, a lot of obnoxious behavior. I mean, I remember just the other week, I was in Fiona's hangouts, and before I came in and while I was in it, I was being called a stupid effing bastard while being interrupted by everybody in the room. They would give me a link for something, and I would try to read it. And then while I'm reading it, everybody's yelling over me. It's like, okay, you gave me this evidence. Are you intimidated of me looking through this article or something? Why can't you just let me finish reading it? That's the type of thing that you put up with in these types of rooms. Now, okay, of course, drag isn't going to mention that, right? As those things happening.
Of course not.
There's actually two people I want to give shout-outs to. John from last night and Oscar as well. Those two were very, very stand-up guys. And the rest of you trolls out there, you thugs out there, need to follow those guys' example.
Yeah, right. I agree. Let me ask you this, because when I came into the hangout last night, I heard something about John. I thought it was quite funny, actually. He was defending anatomical changes, okay? And True, I think you do an excellent job by trying to pinpoint what the distinction between minor changes and complete anatomical changes, okay? We're talking about, a complete visual difference. We're not talking about genetic difference. We're talking about a complete anatomical difference. A man and a dolphin, they don't look the same. There's a complete anatomical distinction there. But what John McDropout tried to say in the discussion when I came in halfway through it was he was defending the idea of color change being a dramatic anatomic change. Am I correct or was he saying something else?
Well, from what I was gathering from him, he was saying that, well, okay, for example, the mutation that causes red hair and the loss of melanin in the skin with redheads and albino skins, well, those traits can be passed on and then can be expressed later on if their mates find those traits attractive. Okay, obviously none of us are going to disagree with that, but saying that, okay, we're going to have another genetic defect combined with all the other genetic defects already carried in the human body, and then somehow it will be expressed later on in the future, that's not giving any evidence of small changes leading to a new anatomical feature. Right. The difference, the change of color in hair to begin with, that's not changing the anatomical feature, building a new anatomical structure. To say it's an anatomical structure is to say that it's a new bodily structure. So, yeah, you can change the color of that by, screwing up the mechanism that has the color in it. But obviously that's not the same thing as having a new structure. I use the example of hair, for example. Our hair is made of the same material as, I believe it's a rhino's horn, right? That's a different structure. That's a different structural design. But the color of it is not what's important right here. That's what he was trying to use. Well, if we keep on having these types of defects, well, then it's going to somehow pile up to build something new, like lungs or gills or that.
And see, that is just it. See, again, I am not a scientist. I don't have the passion that you, Neff, Tommy Hall, and others do to look into this stuff. But when I hear people make these claims, and if we're going to think epistemologically here, I'm looking for something that's tangible. And from what I'm hearing, the argument saying, well, we know evolution happens. How do you know? Because we see little changes here with this. Okay, but what we're still ultimately seeing is this creature
breeding the same kind of creature. So yeah, but then they jump from that to imagination or some form of hypothesis. It says, well, you can imagine. No, 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 no. I don't want to hear imagine. I want to know whether or not this actually happens.
Exactly. What a lot of people didn't realize is that the whole entire time that John McDropout was speaking, he was arguing based on his presupposition that, okay, well,
Yeah.
this is going to happen. It's just a claim that's being repeated. Okay, if it keeps on happening, if it keeps on breeding, it takes a step to reach a mile. So step by step, it's going to build something new. Okay, there's the claim right there.
Right.
We already know that small changes can happen and alterations and changes in proteins. We already understand that. But how many alterations and changes does it take to build these types of structures? Right? And we can't ever observe that. That's what I was trying to get them to understand. That has never been tested. The mechanisms of evolution can never prove that. So how are you saying that you have evidence for that? How are we saying that this is a scientific theory if you cannot give an example of these types of large changes? You're just saying that the small changes will lead up to it, but repeating that claim doesn't make it so.
Well, as the discussion moved along last night, he actually got to a part of the conversation where he was saying that, well, we can infer this and we can infer this, but he wasn't giving any physical testable evidence of it whatsoever.
And that bothers me, because why is it that they can argue this way about the evidence of evolution when all we see are fossils, but we see what they claim to be transitional fossils, but yet we can't talk about intelligence. We can't say that because we have evidence that there was an intelligent designer behind these things, because look at the DNA code. Okay, look at this, look at this, look at that. This seems to be something that only a sentient being, force, whatever you want to call it, something with knowledge, something with a person that does something like this. And we come to that conclusion through deductive reasoning. But no, it's okay. But it's bad to think that. But yet we have to embrace evolution, even though we don't see any real evidence of it except for what they claim to be evidence.
Yeah, that's absolutely 100% the point. Actually, like, we don't know of any accumulations of defects and screw ups and things like that to build any sort of machine or structure like we're seeing inside of the cell. We do not know that. Usually whenever you're seeing like turbines, and I'm bringing this up because a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this already, it takes an intelligence to place each component in a specific way for them to start interacting with each other. So when they say, well, things inside of the cell that just act on the laws of physics, or they're just acting on chemistry, the things that are machines that act on the laws of physics or chemistry, they only act that way because an intelligence has set those parts in motion so that they all have a specific place in that part to do their job. Like, for example, bushings and bearings and so forth, and motors, those are all placed there in a specific way so that it can be a motor. What they're trying to get us to believe is that the accumulation of just screw-ups is just going to somehow pile up to build something like that, and that's a claim that's never, ever actually been tested or proven. So I think that's the point here. See, our abductive reasoning, which would be our sort of inference of a best explanation, would fall right in line with what we're saying, because based on the symptoms available that we're seeing inside of the cell, intelligence has actually been known to make those things happen. But no amount of screw-ups or accidents has ever been known to make any type of machine. And that's the point here that I've been desperately trying to get them to answer. How are we saying that evolution can do this?
I want to just note something really quick. If anybody looks at the discussion which happened last night, none of us were insulting the evolutionists that came in the room. It wasn't happening.
Right.
So,
actually, we got insulted. We were called scumbags.
Yep.
Exactly. The same guy who's actually racist. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they insult in their rooms, and then they insult when they come into our rooms.
I'd say to that, glory to God, man, because, to me, that just shows that they're not some of these individuals are not confident in their own worldview or their positions on certain scientific areas.
you know, again, I just find it fascinating where when they're, you know, sure we have some challenges on our side too, but however, that doesn't mean that they don't have any challenges on their side either. I know that some of them are willing to admit that, but one thing I can't stand is this this arrogant and narcissistic attitude of some of these individuals. Uh, Unfortunately, and I have to say this out loud, I do see this quite often with Dragnut. I've seen him in a couple of videos where he's calling people stupid, you know, and then turns around and boasting in himself, talking about, you know, how much education he's got. Well, be that as it may, that's fine. But you know, I mean, you have to. I don't know why the constant reiteration about, you know, what you know, how much smarter you are than the next person. I don't know, you know. That's what he needs to do to get his rocks off. But fine, but I don't think it needs to be reiterated. Just talk about the topic first of all, and why this person is wrong, you know, and present evidence for it. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, to drag is a little. He's a bit over exaggerating on his education to begin with. I mean, none of us talk about it because we don't really care. But you know, his knowledge is pretty much like basic entry level college, pretty much. If you finish one course in chemistry.
How dare you say that, True? How
Yeah.
dare you?
Well, we don't care about it, so we don't talk about it. It's just something he mentions because you know it makes him feel better about himself, and that's good, man. I'm glad that he's going to college and he's trying to do what he's doing. I hope he's successful in what he's doing. But I don't mention it because I don't really care what anybody's credentials or education is. I care about what the truth of this information is, and I'm going to need a little bit more than, well, you're stupid and I'm right. You know, I need a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Well, guys, I gotta head out. I gotta get ready to do some laundry, and right after that, I gotta have this conversation with Lyrical Ryan. By the way, it's going to be on a Trinity, and it's gonna start off with our conversation first, and then we're gonna open it up to the public. So if you guys are interested in getting into a discussion about the Trinity, you know, I can use the help.
Yeah,
I might be over there.
All right. But anyway, God bless, guys. Take care. Keep up the good work.
All right,
Yeah,
man.
hey, brother Carlos. Yeah, true. I know you don't want to make this hangout too long. I was just wanting to see if brother Carlos had anything to say about, you know, how atheists, you know, act in these hangouts, their demeanor, their conduct, or things like that.
Right. Well, I guess I would start off with my latest experience with an atheist. And that was the hangout I was in with you the other day, yesterday I believe, which was about pro-life and um, talking about gender identity and these type of things. I don't want to categorize every single atheist because one thing I noticed that a lot of a lot of atheists do is you know they'll try to make it they'll make it their point that, well, not all of us are like that, or they'll point to times where people on the Christian side do things that are pretty rude or obnoxious or whatever they would perceive it to be. But I think one thing that both camps should take a stand for is engaging in a civil discussion, civil dialogue, rationality, and rather than pointless antagonism. I mean, and one thing that I've learned personally from my own mistakes in dealing with atheists, with believers, and with people who profess to be believers, is that I always answer a full, not I always, but I've had a tendency, and I'm working on a tendency to not answer a fool according to his folly. The Lord has me in the book of Proverbs, and in the book of Proverbs there's much wisdom that talks about how to address a fool, how to deal with a foolish person, what to say to a foolish person, what not to say to a foolish person, what to expect when addressing a foolish person. And sometimes, man, we just have to know when to address these people, and then there's a point in time where we cannot cast like these pearls before swine. You know, it's without the grace of God, man. Some of these people won't care if you're the most extremely civil, well-behaved, well-mannered person in the world. Um, and what we just have to do is, continue to be consistent because, True was a huge role model, man, and had a huge impact in the Google Plus community when I was first learning about apologetics and these type of things. So there's brothers, there's people, who are still in the milk. There's still people who are new to the faith. There's still people who have genuine questions, who are genuinely searching and seeking, and they're learning from these videos. So that I say that to say this, that we just may continue, to live as the Lord wants us to be, to exercise the fruit of the Spirit, to be well mannered, to be civil, to watch our tongues, and just to continue to proclaim the truth of not only of God's creation, but His the good news of His gospel message. Because the reality is, some people are just beyond being reasoned with, but there are genuine people there that are discerning and can tell the difference between that. I know I was one of those people, man. I came here on the Google Plus community, and the first thing that drew me off, um, turned me off about a lot of atheists was the constant antagonizing, the ridiculing, the mocking, the ad hominems attacks. The not as you guys were talking earlier about inductive reasoning, having perfectly, in my opinion, perfectly justifiable logical inferences when it comes to, you know, believing in an intelligent designer. Um, so a lot of people, being intellectually lazy, not being as intellectually honest, and that shows on the atheist side. I'm not an atheist. I would never believe in atheism. I hope people repent and turn to the Creator, and turn to the Lord Jesus Christ. But one thing that I would tell to the atheists is just to know that if you're genuinely seeking and you're concerned about these people and you want them to know the truth, don't mock them, don't ridicule them, don't put them down, don't throw them under the bus. That's immature. It's entertaining. A lot of things are entertaining, but it's immature. All right, so you don't have to be a religious person to be wise. You don't have to be a non-religious person to be wise. We're all adults here. We're mature, and let's act that way. So just to work on the attitudes and how we go about these messages. But yeah, so that's one thing I would say about the atheists, and the same thing for believers as well, man. Remember, people are listening. Um, you're not called to convince somebody or intellectualize somebody into the faith. You're called to give good reasons, and that person is going to play their part. The Lord's going to play their part. But let's not stoop down to that level. But yeah, thank you guys for what you're doing. Keep up the great work, and thanks for having me.
Amen, Brother Carlos.
God bless, man. Well said.
Hello, brother Tommy.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see y'all. How long y'all been on today?
We've been live for about probably a good 30, 40 minutes or so, maybe.
Yeah.
So do you know what we're talking about?
No, I don't. I just saw you that you guys were online and thought I'd hop in, but no, I haven't been watching at all.
Yeah, we're basically responding to the pompous attitude of a lot of the evolutionists. We began actually talking about Dragnok's video that we directed towards you just recently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah, I happened to watch that a while back, just a few minutes ago, and it's more the same. It's amazing how he can make a video, multiple videos, and say, he implies that they're in the position of scientific supremacy, yet he never presents any actual science. I mean, it's all about us and not about anything about in regards to the actual what we've been talking about. He's like a one-trick pony, and it's like once you've seen one of his videos, you've pretty much seen them all. So yeah, it's more the same. I mean, but yeah, what I noticed from it was, and this kind of follows up with what Thank You was saying, and I've been a Christian for quite a while now, but I would think, just watching his video and the way he talks, just in casual conversation, it's one vulgar thought, statement, word, sentence, phrase after another. And that I understand people talk in different ways, people are raised in different ways, but it's just a turnoff. I mean, it's one thing. I understand people get angry and they cuss, whatever. I mean, that's normal in society nowadays. But just to have a normal, casual conversation where the F word is spoken every third word, and go F yourself, and just the constant attacks, kind of like what Thanky was saying, that I would think as a non-believer who's looking at both sides, that there is an apparent difference between the two camps, and just I would think looking at it just objectively, you would kind of see that there's a good side and a bad side. I'm not saying that Christians are good, that I'm good, because we're obviously sinners, and we are and certainly not our behavior is not always perfect. But in general, it just seems to me that the other side is so much on the attack, and they're so mean. They're vulgar. They're angry. They seem like they've got pent up issues, and it's hard to not get provoked by them and to join them. But I have to catch myself, and as a Christian, I'm supposed to be an ambassador for Christ, and no matter what is said to me, I'm supposed to act like Christ would act. And so it's challenging to me dealing with these people. But anyway, I thought what you said, thank you, was well said, and it's difficult to remember and to actually follow up with that sometimes when we're dealing with these people. But it's something we do need to do.
Oh, exactly, and I don't think that you're really too guilty of anything like that, Tom. I've never really seen you lose your cool. I've lost my cool to where I've started raising my voice with some people. I think I actually called a couple of people some dingbats, but that's just I've still I've lost my patience with them a couple of times. But it is true. I mean, where do you benefit from just trying to put the other side down and attacking them personally, or trying to make them feel low? I mean, and I'm not trying to name anybody, but a lot of the times it comes off to me as like they do have some sort of insecurities that they don't feel comfortable with in their own personal life, and that's the reason why they got to look down on everybody else here on YouTube that disagrees with them, because I don't know, maybe it makes them feel better about themselves by bringing somebody lower than them. That's how it comes off to me, at least. I don't see any reason why any of those accusations or name calling or racial remarks. Man, I have received so many racial comments, straight up racism from so many different people, and it's unnecessary. That anger is coming from somewhere. You don't act like that because somebody says you're wrong and I disagree with your view and here's why. Mm-hmm. There's something going on with where they need those views to be true or something, which causes them to react. That's really all I got to say on it.
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, go ahead, Antonio.
Oh yeah, I just want to mention something that's been came up quite a bit in the last few hangouts. This issue of this echo chamber thing. It seems like there's sort of a kind of a demeanor on their side that they want to just dominate, every medium. Hold on, I got mute. Y'all can talk for a sec.
Well, I was just gonna say, since he stepped away, that what you described, first of all, true. I've heard the worst things said to and about you. It's unbelievable how, and you're an otherwise pretty calm, generally a mild-mannered person. I've never seen you, freak out. I mean, not that freaking out is not human occasionally, but I've never seen it. I've seen arguments get heated, but usually that takes both sides. But I've seen a worse thing said to and about you, and about Veckel, and about various other Christians about me, quite honestly. And it's not just one of them. I mean, a lot of the people we deal with on these hangouts and generally in our little evolutionist creationist debate little group that we have, a lot of them are very quick to anger and get very frustrated. And I mean, it's it's a pattern sort of with these people that it strikes me as, well, the way I look at it is when someone stoops to that level, then that tells me that they've already lost the argument, and they can't really they can't formulate an actual a rebuttal, a legitimate rebuttal to what you're saying, and so it infuriates something inside them, and it causes some sort of an inner explosion. It happens with Steve, and it happens with Fiona. Gets very, very angry, and of course Drag is always angry. It seems like. I mean, he can't even have a casual conversation without just spewing stuff. And not to name too many names, but that's a very common characteristic. And you got to wonder if there's something really deep inside that's there's some hostility there that really is coming to the surface, and it just takes a little trigger to manifest.
Right, absolutely, man, and that just takes me back to what I was saying about the whole echo chamber business. As I was saying, there seemed to be sort of a dominating demeaning presence on their side, to where they seem to want to have an echo chamber in their hangouts, and then they want to come to people in our circles and have an echo chamber in the comment section. It's not that we're so much about trying to just have an echo chamber all day. I believe we, more than them, want to have a legitimate, mature discussion. The problem is when you get to the brass tacks of these things, when you want to get to the core issues of talking about these things, they're just not interested in doing it, because when we get to the more pertinent points, when we get to the core crux issues, they know what's going to happen if they're not prepared to deal with these issues. So they try to obfuscate left and right. They try to troll left and right, and they try to just keep distracting. They just try to keep confusing things, and they just don't want to just deal with the truth.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's almost as if they're afraid of that ego of theirs being challenged. So they have to act out a certain way. I mean, I remember watching Tommy Hall, I believe, with Dragknocked, and Tommy's telling him specifically, it was about some specific issue. And he said, you know what, I don't really know a lot about this topic, so I really can't comment too much on it. And Drag is pressing him with probably something he just Googled on the spot about some off-topic situation. Okay, why are you trying to pressure somebody who's telling you that they don't have a comment on this right now because they haven't looked into it? And it's because he wants to try to make himself look good. Yeah. And that's the reason why, it's the same thing with Steve. Steve is constantly looking for people who are telling him that he doesn't know a lot about these, this topic, whether on chemistry or whatever, and he'll to look at that person, he'll try to go after them in that direction with that topic, but he'll avoid talking to other people who can talk about the topic, because he's intimidated and frustrated with talking to people who can put him in check. This is the exact same reason why I think that he reacted towards Tommy recently about this issue with Lamarckism, because you can't condescend to somebody who can actually respond to what you're saying. And with Tommy knows about this topic, so how does he react? With anger and frustration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's unfortunate, man. Because in the end of the day, if we're confident about what we believe in, there's no need to ridicule, put another person down, or because in the end of the day, man, just because you have so many people that are okay with what you're doing doesn't mean that you're embarrassed and living hell out yourself. In the end of the day, man, you guys gotta go home, see yourself in the mirror sometime, and the truth is the truth, man. It's shameful. It's embarrassing to act such a way. And one thing that I want to make a comment on is the people who love to troll True Empiricism's chat box. Because a lot of times I'm in the hangout, I'm a layman, I'm learning much on both sides and both positions, and I'm not one that, the Bible says, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only delights in expressing his opinion. I'm not one of these people that are going to just spew out of my, what first comes to my mind. You know, I'm not gonna go off of straight instinct and emotion and pure prejudice and ignorance, and you know, as some of these people do. But some of you people, man, honestly, and I'm not trying to be biased, you know, because I don't. It's not Christians that are trolling their brother in Christ. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this automatically.
Can anyone hear Carlos?
Yeah, I think we lost him. I thought it was just me.
Yeah, I think he
Well,
cut out.
until he comes back in, I just want to make a quick comment about what someone said in the text chat. It said a full text, all knowledge from one book. Well, first of all, if you're talking about the Bible, it's not one book, sir. It's 66. Get your facts straight, sir. the second
How does he
thing,
not know that?
the second thing is we don't even take all knowledge from those 66 books. We take it from science, philosophy, a number of different disciplines. We're Christians aren't stupid, man. We know our stuff.
I'm looking at the comment right now. Looks like Fiona says, "Strong empiricism, well done on your refutation of Tompkins' claim. Incidentally, you do realize you also refuted yourself, don't you?" Well, I'd be careful with what you're saying, with what direction that you go in, because I'm actually in contact with Tompkins. So some of that information was coming directly from Tompkins. So you might put your foot in your mouth, Fiona. But yeah, guys, I mean, I don't know. You guys have anything else you want to say about this issue with evolutionism? Because we could probably go on all day with the type of behavior. You know,
I'm good. I've said my piece, man. Thanks for having this hangout, man. Just allowing us to talk about this stuff, man. But I just want to, like I said before, man, it's time for people to swallow their pride, man. People on both sides, but really mainly the atheist, evolutionist side. Y'all gotta swallow y'all pride, man. Act like adults. Act like human beings, man. And that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's a line of, I mean, this is all fun and stuff, and it's kind of fun bouncing stuff, you know, brain thoughts and opinions and scientific perspectives off of people, but to me, it can get to the point where it's a little bit too contentious, and it seems to me that this community right now is, the two sides are really kind of going after each other pretty good, and some of it seems like it's over the line to me. But I wish it could be more of a serious scientific debate, and I know it is. Or we try to make it that way, but like with Drag in his last two or three videos anyway, you know, it's just rhetoric for the most part. If you watch the evolutionist hangout, is rhetoric. It's bashing Christians, and you know, it's
right.
It's kind of when it gets over the top, to me, it's not as fun. I mean, I like to make little jabs at people as much as the next guy, but kind of going back to what I was saying before too, is, you know, with some of the anger that those guys have, as Christians, we have a joy and a peace, you know, when we have, with our faith in Jesus Christ, that, you know, when everything else in life goes bad, we have that joy and that peace, that He's there, and that we live in Him, and we have security and peace through Him, and eternal life through Him, and we're loved by Him.
Amen.
And these guys, you know, they put their faith in science, and they put faith in themselves, and they put their faith in other people, and you know, that's probably to be expected from people who don't have that, you know,
right? You know,
foundation.
Yeah, you notice one thing too, like, you don't really ever hear me or anybody else, as far as I can see, really put any of them down. Like, you know, I've told Dragnock a couple of times in my videos, I hope he's very successful in his classes that he's taking in college. I hope that he can finish it and that things work out okay for him. I don't want to put anybody down, and I don't want anybody to be attacked or feel insecure personally if that's what's going on with him or anybody else here online. But I think that they need to slow down a little bit on trying to attack everybody personally, or trying to deal with these insults towards people, because you don't know what anybody's going through in their personal life, man. You might say something to them that just might devastate them, entirely. So there's nothing to be gained by trying to attack people or put people down. We don't know what's going on. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, you might hear me say something that you might view as being arrogant, like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He obviously didn't look into this topic or anything. But you don't ever hear me attacking anybody or insulting anybody or trying to put them down like you guys try to put people down. And the fact that you do that shows your level of immaturity. I mean, I don't give a crap if you got a PhD in genetics. I don't give a crap if you got a PhD in geology, whatever. I'm not concerned with that. If no matter what education you claim that you have, the fact that you act like that towards people, that just displays your ignorance. That a 35-year-old man or 30-year-old man doesn't know that you shouldn't act and talk like that to other people.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, because I've given certain people credit where it's due. Like, I know not everybody has had the best interaction with Steve McRae, but like I've said more than once, he's always been very nice to me, and I think he knows a lot of stuff, and I respect the fact that he's tried to teach me certain things. But at the same time, though, where was I going with this? Where was I going with this?
Well, you're saying that you liked Steve. Your conversation with Steve.
Yeah. I was going somewhere with this and just totally lost my train of thought. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, that's okay. I like Steve too. In fact, I would say honestly, of all the evolutionists on here, I enjoy talking to him probably the most, because when he's not getting really angry, which he doesn't really that often, but he actually is very informed, and he's challenging, and see, I don't see that in drag at all. I don't see that with a lot of the guys on that other side. Now Fiona's good, but Steve is probably one of my favorite guys to converse with. But the problem with Steve is he's not very tolerant at all. So if you don't see things his way regarding something, then he gets really frustrated, and it makes a dialogue, especially in chat, not so much in video, but in chat, he flies off the deep end with the insults.
Really quick, guys, I want to point something out before it gets thrown right back at me. What I just said before Tommy responded, that doesn't refer to Dragnoc's video that he just put up now. When I'm saying that, I'm referring to comments that I've heard him make in the past towards people, and other people have made as well. So no, I'm not referring to the last video that he made. Last video was a little bit arrogant, but obviously he didn't say anything that would fit that description that I just gave. So I just wanted to point that out, because I know they're going to throw that back at me if I don't clarify that.
Oh yeah, I got my train of thought back. Several people I want to give shout-outs to. Of course, Steve McRae, Sam the Scientist. He was very nice to me. Daryl Soar. He was nice to me. Tried to show me some things. Yeah, I think like True was saying that. I think he actually compliments people and tries to give people credit where it's due more often than not, and so do I, man. I'm not about just putting down their side just because I have certain disagreements with them. I try to do the best I can to give credit wherever it's due, no matter what side you're on. And this issue that's been going around about me just trying to echo True empiricism when he says something, it's just absolutely unfounded. True empiricism will tell you himself more than once. I've like when we were in discussions with atheists, the discussions will get kind of passionate, and then there may be a time to where True empiricism will be talking, and I'll be like, you gotta let him finish, brother. You gotta let him finish, man, or let him present his evidence, like what we were still talking with John Sabator, and I was just saying, just let him present his stuff. So I don't just echo my brothers. If we're having a conversation, and I think the conversations get too flared, even when one of my own brothers is interrupting somebody or won't let them finish, I'll tell them, let them finish. So people need to get off this notion that I'm just trying to just echo people like true empiricism, or that I won't say anything to my own brothers, because it's just absolutely not true.
Exactly. Well, what they're trying to say is that you get all of your information from me, and that there's all this other nonsense, and it's simply not true. They're the ones that are making those statements, trying to pass it along. What true is their science expert or whatever. That's not true at all. And I've actually put out like 4 or 5 videos saying, all right, I am nobody's science expert in anything. You know, a lot of this stuff I'm self-taught on. Everybody go do your own research, because if you do your own research, I suspect that you're going to come to the same conclusions that I came to. I see that's what they want to say. They want to say statements like that. We just agree with each other. We never call each other out. But as Antonio just pointed out, I mean, we will do that. If one of us start to act a little bit out of line, and one of us start to over talk a little bit, we will correct each other to say, okay, well, let him finish what he's trying to say, the opponent is trying to say. But how often do you see that happen in one of Steve's hangouts, or in one of Fiona's hangouts, or one of Dragnoc's hangouts? Typically nobody really cares. They're all laughing at the guy while the guy's trying to get his points out, and he's only halfway through his sentence, and they don't even know what the context is of what the Christian is trying to say, what he's trying to get at.
I mean, I will say that Steve does occasionally try to make way for the creationist to get his perspective out. But I give him credit for that. But the problem is, a lot of times there's just too many voices to control. And if you've ever tried to moderate a room like that when people are kind of high and excited, sometimes it's impossible to moderate that. But I will say that he does at least attempt to provide the chance for a creationist to talk. I was going to say something else. Oh, speaking of John Sabator, he was on a hangout with Steve a while back, and he was presenting some info about common ancestors. I just thought it was funny. He had this like 30, well, no, not long, probably a 10-15 minute spiel about how he was going through this whole thing about fossil cats, and how his proof for common ancestry, meaning the grand sweep of common ancestry, was going through all these cats, and they're showing their similarities. And I got on there with him, and I was like, okay, so it may very well be that cats are related, that the cat kind, or whatever it is, was created by God initially, and then they diversified. But the issue is, do cats and dogs, for example, share a common ancestor? And that was not nearly as easily answerable, and I was asking for the fossils, of which they weren't not able to provide evidence for anything more than a picture. So then he went on, and as you guys know, he made that video, which basically he was doing very much the same thing of presenting lots of organisms' pictures that were in the same family or similar family without any evidence. They all had to share a common ancestor, but he didn't present any of that either. So I don't know, that name just sort of triggered this stuff. It sounds like John's going to try to make a new or try to get on the scene with all this and make a name for himself, which is fine. But he's to me he's presenting evidence that's not really evidence at all for his side.
Yeah, I want to respond to something that somebody said in the comment section. He said, TE, this is Colliding Membranes who's made this statement. He said that TE said he doesn't call people names or say things to be provocative. I think he actually misunderstood the context of what I was saying. But in a video called Pompous Cowards with Excuses. So the title of this video is called Pompous Cowards with Excuses. I think that you're misunderstanding the point here. The beginning of this hangout actually had to do with Dragnoc's video and his excuses as to why he didn't come into the last video that I put up, and the hangout with Nephilim Free, and he was giving a bunch of excuses while being pompous. It's his cowardly behavior as to why he will refuse to enter into a room and at the same time act like he's self-important, so that's the reason why. And as he's doing so, he's only giving excuses. This is a description of the behavior of a lot of you atheists and evolutionists that will not come into rooms and have discussions with us. And the reasons why are very telling. Now, to say that I don't call names is not to say, that I don't give the fitting description. For example, Jesus said that he would flat out tell them, "You guys are hypocrites, filled with dead men's bones. You may clean the outside of your appearance, but inside, you're dead." These are the types of things that Jesus said. And in one case, one of the disciples came to Jesus and told him, "Well, you offend them. You offend the disciples, or you offend the Pharisees and scribes." He said, "Well, let them be." Well, this may be offensive, but it's a perfect description of what it is that we're seeing. Pompous cowards that are refusing to come into the room, that are riddled with nothing but excuses, but the evidence is not fitting what they're saying. Now, when I say that I'm not calling people names, I'm not calling anybody a stupid effing bastard because they disagree with what I'm saying or because I have a different view. I'm not attacking people and calling them retarded and just all sorts of names like you guys call us names
like
when we disagree with you.
And whatnot, like
Like scumbags, or calling people racial slurs like Artist has, just in the last hangout, calling us all scumbags. I mean, we don't do those types of things. So there's a clear distinction between what I'm trying to say right here. That really needs to be paid attention to. The description that I have in my title is the exact description that you guys fit. You want to act like you're self-important, give yourself excuses as to why you won't enter rooms, and in the end, in the long run, when we backtrack your track record when you're talking with people, we see how hypocritical your accusations are, because in the same rooms that you guys are in, you're over-talking, insulting, and being disrespectful, and the people can't get their word in that are in the rooms participating with you. Or when you're in our rooms, you've actually been treated with respect. But what you prefer to happen is that to come into a room and to continue to call us scumbags and call us names, and we're just supposed to sit back and take it. Not mute you, not turn down the volume. We're just supposed to be quiet and let you guys run amok. So I think you need to take into context what it is that we're talking about here.
And look at the people who have said nice things about us when they were in our hangouts. Like John from last night, man. He gave us a whole lot of credit. This discussion definitely did get passionate, yes, but he gave us a whole lot of credit, and we did give him time to talk. We didn't insult him or anything. There's people on their side of the argument who are giving us credit. Can they, besides people like Steve and whatnot, there's just not too many on their side that can say the same thing.
Right, and actually Dragnock was defending, what's his name, Artist in the last discussion that he was in. When Artist was in the room, he was just being nothing but arrogant and disrespectful, interruptive, and just calling people names, making comments about things that he didn't understand, and it was reflected and proven based on the articles that he was giving us. He was just wasting time, and this is the type of thing that they suspect that we should have to tolerate. Let them come into a room, make a mess of everything, not make any points, and present that same arrogant type of attitude that goes on in other hangouts. That's going to be kept in check. You can guarantee that that's going to be muted, or the volume is going to be decreased, so that we can get on track and we can actually get to some substance here. That's what they don't want to happen. They want to run amok and make a mess out of a room.
But notice Mars was the only one who was getting his volume turned down. It wasn't any other evolutionists who came in the room because they were respectful. He wasn't.
Yeah, they were trying to pin me down one time in their little hangout about you, True, and they were coming down on you. They were coming down on you for muting and booting people, and they were trying to get me to comment on that. And I watched or listened to one video that happened on. I haven't heard it much else other than that one particular day, but I remember the specific instance, and there was, and I don't remember specific people, but you were asking a specific question to somebody, and they were refusing to answer that specific question. They kept going off on tangents on different things and not actually addressing what you were saying. And when they started doing that, that's when you lowered their volume, and then you would restate the question. And it happened multiple times, and it was like, no, you just wanted an answer to what you were actually asking. And that's what I explained to them, that, you know, there's some people who are black and white like that, and they want actual answers to the actual question that you're asking. And I don't think that's actually too much to expect, you know, and it's not like you do that often, but they've taken that, what I've seen once, that one instance, and they've run with it, and they've used that as an excuse to not come in here at all. And I think it's because they are, honestly, think about drag isolated in here, or heavy hauler isolated, or any of them really isolated. I think they're terrified of being humiliated, and so I think that's what the actual truth is, and they're just using one, or maybe there was another instance, but really a specific circumstances as an excuse not to come in here.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Do you remember my discussion that I had with Redline on here? I gave him the rules.
Yeah.
I gave him the rules before we started the hangout. I don't want there to be any interrupting. I want us to treat each other with respect. Just be cool a little bit. You know, I understand that there's going to be a little bit of interrupting, but let's not get overboard with it. Towards the end, you can hear him start calling names, and then I had to decrease his volume so that I can finally get a point across. They didn't care about that. They wanted him to keep on running amok, getting off point, and calling names. They weren't concerned with what he was doing. They were concerned with me not letting him do it. That's the funny thing about it, because he makes that excuse, I think, in his video when he narrated it, that I decrease his volume or so on. Well, you act like I was trying to censor you, as in trying to keep you from getting your point across. No, I want to keep you under control. But Fiona and many of the other evolutionists and atheists that were in the little community, you know, watching this, they didn't care about that. So that's the point here. Like, they'll say that, well, he mutes me. Everybody needs to think about why I'm muting them. I mute them and I keep their volume decreased so that they will act civilized, or that they will stay on point, and so that they will not continue to call names. Now, for people who don't agree with what I'm saying right here, you look at my discussion with Dave S. You look at my discussion with DPR Jones. Both the discussions that I have with DPR Jones on my channel. Look at my discussion with Dragnoct once again, and MM Artist. All of those discussions and many more that I've had on my channel. More often than not, they are very respectful. They are very calm. I am not decreasing their volume. I am not doing anything like that, because they're trying to be respectful and they're trying to be calm. It's when they start to be rude and start to call names and they start to be just a bunch of jerks, that's when their volume becomes decreased. So you cannot be surprised when somebody, you know, puts you in check and makes sure that you act like an adult.
And it just seems like these people aren't going to change, man. Trolls are going to be trolls, yeah. Butthurt trolls are going to be butthurt trolls, and butthurt cowards are going to be butthurt cowards. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, the only person that I can say that where I went to their channel and we had a discussion, like Octai, I believe, that was a respectful discussion. For that first discussion that we were in, it was pretty calm and it was pretty respectful. But again, like you see, you know what happened when I went with Fbox and his channel after my discussion with Negation and P. The room was open and they wanted me to come back in, so I came in a little later, and everybody was interrupting and being loud and obnoxious and just rude, including Dragnoct. So you can see what happens when Dragnoct is in a room with other atheists, how he tends to act, compared to how he acts when I get him isolated and I get him in a room with me and we're talking with each other one-on-one. When we're talking to each other one-on-one, I think he realizes and understands that, you know, you're not going to have 9 people in a room making obnoxious remarks and bombarding a statement. So you see, you can't do stuff like that when you're having a one-on-one discussion with somebody. You got to actually come in with points. And I think Dragnak realizes that he needs that arrogant, condescending remarks with other people bombarding like they do, because he needs a filler response. You know, he can mention like some sort of point or something that he just Googled from someplace. But when it comes to investigating each point that he makes, I think he realizes that he cannot get far with those points. So he needs more people in the room to help him, you know, get away from certain issues by being obnoxious.
Really quick here, I got to call out Fiona on something she said in the text chat. She said, so they're wanting that we're too scared to come in, but they haven't given out the link. Color me surprised. How many times? How many times have we given out the link and they don't show up in here?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit towards the end of your statement. I don't know if it was my connection. Can you repeat what you said?
She said that we're complaining about people not coming in the room, but we ain't giving out the link for them to come in the room now. And she was like, color me surprised. And then I'm like, how many times have we given out the link for them to come in the room? And they don't come in the room.
Exactly. Like this right here is a response video.
Right.
But how many times do we open up the link for them to come in and they don't come in? So here's what they do. They say, oh, well, this is just an echo chamber. It's only Christians in here. Right? But then when we give them the room and they have an opportunity to come in and we give them the link, they don't want to come in. So it's, you know, it's like you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't.
About that whole double negative statement from Stinky Fruit Roll's comment, man, I could talk about that with you another time. If you want to come out with a hangout of mine and we can talk about it, then we can talk about it there, but this hangout isn't about that. So that's where I'll end it with that.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing right now. Fiona, she's saying, well, nobody has the link because this is a response video. It's going to be a response hangout to what Dragnock has said and what other people have said as well. We were giving the link out last night for you guys to come in, and you all refused for a good 2 hours or so to come in. We then had another 3-hour hangout later on that night after my hangout on Neff's channel, and only 2 of you guys ended up coming in to make your statements. Okay, so this right here is not going to become another platform for you guys to express your opinions or your views on something. If you want to respond to what's being said here, you can go make a video response. But if you want to have a discussion over this, then there are other videos put together so that we can talk and have a discussion over. Fiona, you've been in my hangouts several times already, so you know that I don't keep you from coming inside of my rooms. I let you come into my rooms, and I sometimes directly give you the link so that you can come in whenever we're talking about biology or something. So you know that you're not somebody who, you know, who's not allowed to come in my rooms. You've been in my rooms many, many times before. So if you want to schedule a discussion sometime so that we can talk with each other, you know we can do that. But this right here is not going to become another platform for your evolutionist atheist little community to express your opinions here, because there's got to actually be a defense on my side to start responding to what's being said. If I let you in this hangout, it's just going to be another video with you guys expressing your opinions and views. That's not going to happen here. Now, if you want to do that, I can start another hangout later on this channel or on your channel, whatever, where me and you can talk about these issues. But this is not the time for that, and it's not going to happen now. If you wanted to talk about anything, you should have came into my discussion last night when it was open, and we were asking for 2 or 3 hours straight for you guys to come in.
Yeah, exactly. And she said she was asleep last night. Well, then again, that she may have been asleep last night, but a whole lot of other ones weren't asleep last night, and they didn't come in. So that's really the point here, is that when they were given the opportunity to come in, they didn't come in. So they can't sit up here and say that we're trying to keep them out from coming in now when they didn't come in last night and they were given plenty of opportunities before and they come in the room.
Yeah. So don't act like you're. Yeah. I mean,
I talked to a couple of them personally and tried to get them to come in here, but they wouldn't do it. So I know there were some watching.
Yeah. I think Dragnock was watching too. He was in both hangouts, my hangout and the other hangout from Neff. So he could have came in. I think he was under that Arcane Polos account, that fake account, because I know he's got some fake Arcane Logos accounts, and I actually told him specifically to come in right there and then. So
I didn't know
they
that
don't
was
have any
him.
excuses.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
he's
that
got
Arcane Polos or whatever that is was him.
Yeah, he's got a couple of different Arcane fake accounts. He's got one Arcane Polos account. He's got with the same icon from Arcane, and he's got another one too.
I'd love for Dragnot to come into a hangout with us and just Dragnot, and he could bring all his education, all his papers, and all his wisdom, all the things he's learned in college, and bring it in here and debate us. That would be fun. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, but I doubt that'll happen.
But if you were to have a hangout later tonight, True, it's going to be the same thing again, I guarantee it. Most of them ain't going to come in.
Well, tonight I'm probably not going to do a hangout. I'll probably do a hangout like maybe Monday or Tuesday. And
Right.
the reason why I want to do a hangout at about 5 o'clock, something like that, where I can get more and more of them in my room. Because when I start a hangout, like what time did we do our hangout last night? 8 o'clock? So they should have still have been able to come in. But I want to do it a little earlier so the people from Britain, if they want to, the people from the other side of the globe, it'll be better for their time frame to come in. Because I think when we do it at like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, they're like that's when they are sleeping. Last night they all could have came in because we didn't. I don't think we did the hangout that late at night. I think we started at like 8 or something like that.
Yep. They had plenty of opportunity to come in. It was like a total of like 5-6 hours of hangouts last night, and like the overwhelming majority of them didn't show up.
Well, MM Artist, he stays somewhere over there too as well. I don't know what his time frame is where he's staying, but he came in towards like the middle, the end of the hangout. So he was able to come in and he was able to talk. There were some people in the comment section that I'm aware of staying closer to the to that area. So they could have came in last night. They refused to. Just like it always happens. We leave the hangout open, they all refuse to come in. That's just how it is to happen. And then when we put a hangout like this, when they know that they can't come in, then they want to ask for the link. And say, oh well, they won't let anybody in. I don't even think that a lot of them want to come in. Maybe Fiona does because Fiona has come in before, but I don't really think that any of them want to come in and have a discussion. They just think that if they make some sort of negative remark like they're making, like it's going to somehow be damning. But we've got evidence. We tried to get you guys in last night, and you guys wouldn't come in. For a good 2 or 3 hours, we were trying to get you in.
But it happened last night, and I guarantee it's going to happen every time we do open up the hangouts, and there's an opportunity for them to come in. It wasn't the first time it happened, and it won't be the last time.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think they're just afraid of getting embarrassed, quite honestly. And so I wouldn't count on them coming into the hangs, at least not individually. They maybe 2 or 3 of them might get together beforehand and decide to come in together, so they give each other cover. But I doubt you'll get one of them isolated.
Yeah. So guys, I'm gonna end this hangout because I gotta go do something. I was going to try to make this only about 45 minutes straight, but I think we've been on here a lot longer than that. So are you guys going to start any hangouts tonight? Or you guys got anything going on this week that you want to advertise?
Yeah, I'm more than likely will start a hangout with probably the next 2 or 3 hours or so from now.
Okay, so Antonio is going to be starting a hangout in about 3 hours, so about 8:30 or so. You guys can expect him to have a hangout live. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. It'll be the 3rd link that I gave you guys. The first one is Dragnot's discussion with me. The second one is MM Artist's discussion with me. The 3rd link is going to be for Antonio Fletcher. Go to his channel at about 8 o'clock, and you can. I don't know if it's going to be an open room or whatever, but you can go check.
Yes, it will be an open hangout.
Yeah, so it's going to be an open hangout. I'll also put his link, I guess, in the comments as well, just in case just for quicker access, so you can get to his hangout easier as well. So, guys, got anything else you guys want to say before we end?
Nope, I'm good.
I'm good, man. I've said my piece, man. Just thanks for the time for us to get this off, man. And I'll see y'all next one.
All right, guys. All right, take it easy. God bless everybody.